In this video, we're going to look at how to bring in a Lexbot, an Amazon Lexbot, into our Sumerian scene. A Lexbot is a chatbot that created in Amazon Lex, a separate service. So we're going to start by, adding a few things in Sumerian and then jumping over to Lex and then jumping back into Sumerian and to learn how to create a state machine that will run that Lexbot inside of a Sumerian scene. All right, so let's get started. Okay, I'm back here in my scene, and so far we have covered the host component. We've just looked at what these different settings are for point of interest and the animate using speech. We've also looked at the speech component, so we created an intro speech. And if you remember, in the last video we created this speech, or we first wrote this speech up in Amazon Poly, and then we just copied and pasted it over here into Sumerian. Of course, we didn't actually create this speech on camera, but had this, we walked through what all these different breaks or tags actually mean. Okay, so instead of though running a speech from inside Sumerian, we're going to create an Amazon Lexbot and bring that into Sumerian. Okay, so how do we do that? First, we need to add a component onto Maya that will integrate with the Amazon Lexbot. So I'll click Add Component, and I want the dialogue component. All right, so dialogue component. And then notice that it asks for a name and an alias. We don't have a Lexbot yet, so that's something that we will need to add in there. So we're just going to click Open AWS Console, and that'll jump over to Lex. Okay, you notice that I already have a few different Lexbots created in my Lex console. I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. Now you can always create a custom Lexbot. That'll be take a little bit more work, and we'll have a later video. We do have some content out there already that exists, but we will be creating a video shortly on walking through just the Lex side, just to give you a quick and accessible piece of video content that will help you walk through the basics of creating your own Lexbot. But instead of that, we're just going to choose a sample, and so I'm going to choose book trip. Then we'll call this we'll call this host. What do we want to call this? Host video series book trip. We'll click yes for the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act and click create. All right, now walk through some of the basics of Lex real quickly. There are two intents to the book trip is really the sample bot. And there are two intents that you can go down, and the intents are essentially paths on which you can take the conversation. So I can book a car or I can book a hotel. And for book car, it will ask me things like, in what city do you want to rent a car? What day do you want to start your rental? What day do you want to return the car? How old is the driver for this rental? And so you have to kind of walk through, and because all of these slots are required, the Lexbot is going to walk me through or force me to do all of those. Okay, and let's move the test bot over. And same with book hotel, it's a very similar thing. And if I want to book a hotel, the slots will be what city we'll be staying and what day do you want to check in, and all of these are required. One thing I didn't say is the utterance. The utterance is really the speech or the thing that the user would say to kick off that Lexbot. So, for example, book hotel would say, book so many nights, night stay in location, and because location are they're part of the slot type. So, if I provide book so many nights stay in location, it's going to really check off these two slots, even though it's not going to ask me those questions through those slots because I already provided that information. I could also just say, I want to make hotel reservations, and then it'll walk me through all of those. Again, book car is similar. Make a car reservation, reserve a car, book a car. You could add the sample utterances to kick off that bot. If I want to, let's build it. This will take just a moment. Okay, host video series book trip build was successful. And now I need to publish it. And I need to create an alias, and I'll just call it test. An alias is really kind of like a version for this particular Lex bot. And this will take a couple minutes as well. Okay, now that it is published successfully, I can close, and I can also test my chatbot. So let's try a few things. Let's just say something like, oops, I need to use I got to enable our microphone to be allowed using Chrome, so I'll just click allow.
Sorry, what can I help you with?
See how it didn't actually read. I think it picked up on something I said there. So let's try again. Make a car reservation.
In what city do you need to rent a car?
Denver.
What day do you want to start your rental?
March 21st.
What day do you want to return the car?
March 23rd.
How old is the driver for this rental?
75.
What type of car would you like to rent? Our most popular options are economy, midsize, and luxury.
Luxury. Luxury.
Okay, I have you down for a luxury rental in Denver from March 21st, 2019 to March 23rd, 2019. Should I book the reservation?
All right, there we go. Now currently this Lexbot is not hooked up to confirm anything or actually make a reservation anywhere, but we certainly could do that. And if you notice that the confirmation, this is what she just read back. So, okay, I have you down for car type, and so it'll insert whatever value I provided, pickup city, pickup date, and so forth. And it could also have, if the user says no, okay, I've canceled your reservation in progress. So those are the confirmation prompts that were added in there. All right, so we have our Lexbot. The things that we need to remember to bring it into Sumerian are the name of your Lexbot. So host video series book trip. That's a little lengthy, so I'm just going to copy it. And the other thing, if you remember when I published, I created an alias called test. Now you don't actually have to remember that. It might be useful, but let's jump back over to Sumerian and see what we can do there. So for the dialog component, we're just going to add what I just copied, host video series book trip, and the alias. I could put test, or I could do something that make it a little easier. I'm going to go $latest. So it's always going to pull the latest alias, whatever I've published. Okay, so now we have our Lexbot connected and integrated with our scene. The next thing we need to do is create a state machine that will allow us to interact with that, with the Lexbot. Okay, so let's go to, we already have a state machine, so I don't need to add a component. So I need to go to state machine. I have the speech behavior, and I'm just going to start a new one called chat behavior. Let's get rid of this. Just like the speech tutorial we had walked through, we wanted to make the first state be the AWS SDK. So we'll look for AWS SDK. And we're going to add state. And we're going to call this one key down. And we will add action, and I will search for the key down action. Right, by default, it has the A key is the key down that it's listening for. I want to make it the spacebar, so I just click in there and click whatever button you want to use or whatever key you want to use. I will add state, and I will call this one start recording. Add action. I'll search for start microphone recording. Great. Now there's no transition label from here. And that's because now we need to do the key up action. And we also need to make this spacebar. So these need to match. So if you use A, you can use A over here. But because I use spacebar, I want to make sure that I make this spacebar as well. I'm going to add action. And now I'm going to look for the stop recording. Or I'm going to call it stop recording. And now I'll look for the stop microphone recording. I will add that to my scene. I will add another state. I'm going to call this one process with Lex. The action I will add on to this is send audio input to DialogBot. A little bit longer of a name. So essentially what's going to do is that it'll check with the SDK to make sure that's all working and everything's in line, and then it'll go to key down. So it'll wait for key. Really, I should call this wait for key down. And once the key goes down, it'll start recording, and then once the key goes up, it'll transition to stop recording, at which point it'll stop recording. And once the recording is complete, it'll then go to process with Lex, and Lex will know what to do or will process whatever the recording is. And then it will go to next, add another state, start speech. We did this one on the last video. We'll click add action and we'll search for start speech. Instead of selecting a speech like intro speech, we can select use Lex response. All right. Now we just need to add transitions between each of these. Now there are 3 transition labels under this process with Lex: on response ready, on processing error, on Lex configuration error. We're assuming that we're not going to be operating off of errors, at least in this tutorial. We're not going to be worried about that. We're just going to use the on response ready. So when the response is ready from Lex, it will transition over to the start speech, in which it'll say the speech, but it's going to be pulling from the Lex response, not a specific speech. But then we want to go back to wait for key down. We don't want to go back to AWS SDK ready. We don't need to do that. We're just going to go straight back to wait for key down so we can record over again. All right, now we already went through this LexBot for the most part, or parts of it, one of the intents, I should say. Let's try the same one again.
Hi there, I'm a Sumerian host and I can talk, just like you. I can...
Some interesting behaviors, actually. Now you notice how she started speaking. Well, that's because there is a separate state machine behavior attached to the host for her to start speaking right off the bat. Now, I actually don't know what would happen. I have not tested if I start trying to interact with the speech behavior or the LexBot while another speech is happening. I assume it just wouldn't work. But either way, what I want to do is go to my state machine behavior and just get rid of it. Now, remember, it doesn't delete my behavior. It's still my speech behavior. It still exists over here. I just have removed it so it's not attached to Maya anymore. All right, so I'm going to go back into this speech, press play, and see what happens. Okay, so it's waiting for the key down. And then I will press the space bar and then start with the utterances that are directed in the LexBot. I would like to book a car.
In what city do you need to rent a car?
Denver.
What day do you want to start your rental?
March 21st.
What day do you want to return the car?
March 23rd.
How old is the driver for this rental?
100.
What type of car would you like to rent? Our most popular options are economy, mid-size, and luxury.
Economy.
Okay, I have you down for our economy rental in Denver from the 21st of March 2019 to the 23rd of March 2019. Should I book the reservation?
No.
Okay, I have cancelled your reservation in progress.
All right, so there you go. That's how you bring it into a LexBot. Now, of course, if you want to, there are other ways in which you can complete the Lex conversation, and so you can do that with inside Lex. And there's other things, of course, you can do in here, Sumerian. But those are the basics to start creating some sort of interaction, some sort of chatbot within Sumerian. One thing I do want to point out is, so let's say you wanted to have an introduction speech. And so something that says like, "Hi, I'm a Sumerian. I'm a Sumerian host. How can I help you book a trip today?" So if you wanted a speech to start off right away, what you could do is add a state, and you can call it intro speech. add action, start speech. Then you could select your speech right here. And then you would include that. I'll click stop. There. Okay, so now it would still work the same. We're just adding in a quick introduction speech before your Lexbot. So yeah, so if you want to have some sort of introduction, some sort of how can I help you today, then you can start interacting with your Lexbot. There's a good place to insert it. I'm not going to do that because that speech, remember, is not an intro speech. It's very long and just goes through a lot of the SSML tags from Poly. But that is the basics of creating a short primer on how to create a Lexbot using a sample provided by Lex, and then how to integrate that Lexbot into a Sumerian scene. Thanks for joining us. I hope you will join us again for the next video.